Daily.
Late night.
Daily.
Late night.
Tonight Show. Wow. Good evening and welcome to the Daily Late Night Tonight Show. I am your host, Hugh Donnelly, and tonight we're gonna have some fun. First up, let's talk about Netflix. Yeah, I love Netflix, but people have been calling it woke because it has shows that promote diversity and inclusivity. I know, it's everything. The right hates those things. And honestly, if that's what being woke means, just sign me up. That's right, yeah. They're always just complaining about how they're all the same. There's all these shows are woke. It's always the same thing. They say, oh look, there's the gay person, which is just it's crazy. Have you ever opened up Netflix? Have you seen how many categories there are? There's trending. There's what's popular. There's the top 5 list. There's the recommended for you. So I just think that these right wingers just must not even be looking at the amount of things that you could find. And what? You're going to complain about the handful of shows that actually have, a gay person or a black man in it? That's just the right-wing hate mob for you. And do you know who really hates, all good things like diversity and inclusion? Donald Trump. It's like all of these things are just lost on him. I mean, this guy, he's like Sid from Toy Story. Yeah, you remember that movie, right? Yeah, you remember Sid, the kid who would take toys apart and put them back together all wrong. That's like Donald Trump and our democracy. I know. It's like instead of blowing up toys, he's blowing up our country. and I gotta tell you, Joe Biden, well, I mean, he's like Woody. He's just trying to keep everything together and make sure everyone gets along. And in other news, have you guys heard about Marjorie Taylor Greene's latest obsession? She says that she wants a national divorce. Yeah, apparently she wants to break up half of America. It's like she's trying to make the United States of America the United States of Ross and Rachel. Yeah, I know. I wrote that one. But you know what's also funny is she's always talking about how she loves America and the Constitution. But now she wants to break it up like a high school couple on prom night. I mean, I get it. Sometimes things just don't work out. But isn't it a little extreme to want to split the country in half just because you don't like the way someone votes? It's like wanting a divorce because your spouse likes pineapple pizza. I wrote that one too. And let's just be real for 1 second. If she got her way, the country would basically end up like a bad episode of The Bachelor. Will the red states accept this rose, or will they send him home without love? Yeah. I didn't write that one, but it's good. But in all seriousness, we can't let this kind of divisive rhetoric tear us apart. I mean, we need to work together, even if we don't always agree on everything, because at the end of the day, we're still all Americans. Well, I mean, maybe not MTG. Sounds like she might need a little convincing. Yeah, I know. She wants a divorce, so you get it. And finally, I would like to take a moment to address something that happened on the show some time ago. we had a musician on. His name was Swamp Johnson, and I would like to apologize. I didn't know what kind of man he was before I had him on. I mean, the guy plays a banjo. I should have known that he probably wasn't a good person. How often do you see a white man playing a banjo and think, "Oh yeah, he's a good man"? But serious, I didn't know what kind of man he was before he was on the show. That was my producer's fault. So you can't blame me for that. But I am sorry. And we do not condone hate speech or bigotry of any kind. And I would never want to give a platform to those types of people. And in that vein, we have tonight a very special guest, someone who is a diversity expert, someone who has worked with some of the biggest companies in the world. Please, everyone, I would like you to welcome Dr. Jasmine Torres. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Well, thank you for having me, Hugh. It's great to be here.
Yeah, so, Dr. Torres, with everything that's been happening in our country lately, I wanted to get your thoughts on diversity and inclusion. What do you think are the most important things that companies can do to promote diversity?
Well, Hugh, the first thing that companies need to do is recognize that diversity is not a box-checking exercise, okay? True diversity requires a deep commitment to creating a culture where everyone feels welcome.
Now that's a great point. What are some of the things that companies can do to create this amazing culture that you're talking about?
Well, Hugh, one of the most important things is to make sure that everyone has a voice. That means actively seeking out the opinions and perspectives of people from different backgrounds. And actually listening to anyone who is not white is going to be the best approach that I could recommend to any company looking for diversity and inclusion.
Now that is really interesting. So can you tell us a bit more about these specific tactics that you use in your diversity work?
Sure, Hugh. Well, one of the main tactics I use is creating safe spaces for people to share their experiences and perspectives. This involves creating a non-judgmental environment where everyone feels comfortable expressing themselves and is able to listen to others without being interrupted or being dismissed by their white boss. It starts with establishing ground rules and expectations for respectful dialogue. I also use activities and exercises that encourage active listening and empathy, such as role-playing and perspective-taking exercises.
Oh, yes. Well, everyone loves role-playing at work. I know that we do it here all the time.
Oh, yes. And of course, it's important to ensure that everyone in the room feels seen and heard. So I make a point to amplify the voices of marginalized groups and encourage others to do the same, especially the white people.
Now, that sounds like a lot of work for sure, because as a white man, we do not amplify voices of marginalized groups and encourage them to speak up nearly enough. And that's just my opinion.
I think that the biggest challenge is actually getting people to see the value in diversity and inclusion efforts. There's still lots of misconceptions and resistance to this idea that diversity is a strength and that creating inclusive environments benefits everyone. I find that a lot of my work involves education and breaking down those barriers that white people bring to the workplace.
I absolutely would have to agree with that. I mean, it's so important to get everyone on the same page and working towards the same goal. So that's why things like, qualifications and, work experience, are just completely irrelevant. I mean, we really should just be sitting down and listening to what people like you, Dr. Torres, have to say about this.
Oh, yes, thank you, Hugh. I very much appreciate that. And I really appreciate your attempt to roll your R's enough in my last name. It makes me feel both seen and heard. The validation it's truly amazing. Thank you, Hugh.
No, well, of course, it's the least I could do. You're being such a white man. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this has been our segment on the diversity and inclusion tactics that all companies should be using. Thank you, Doctor, for being here.
It's been a pleasure. Down with Whitey.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, this has been the Daily Late Night Tonight Show. And you know what time it is. Ayo.
Ayo.
Daily.
Late night.
Daily.
Late night.
Tonight Show. Wow.